Ghislaine Maxwell, a former girlfriend of the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, has been sentenced to 20 years in prison by a court in New York.
Some breaking news. Ghislaine Maxwell has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for helping Jeffrey Epstein sexually abuse underage girls.
Federal judge has sentenced Ghislaine Maxwell to 20 years in prison for her role in the sexual exploitation and abuse of minors for over a decade.
This comes after a jury convicted her of sex trafficking for Jeffrey Epstein.
In the wake of the Epstein scandal, America still isn't sleeping easy. Years after Jeffrey Epstein's death in a high-security cell ruled a suicide, yet surrounded by questions. The names linked to his dark empire continue to haunt the headlines. Now, with recently unsealed court documents implicating dozens of powerful figures, including high-ranking U.S. officials and foreign dignitaries, the conversation has reignited. Who knew what? Who helped? And who's still hiding behind privilege? But behind Epstein, the man who became synonymous with abuse and manipulation, stood a woman. Refined, educated, charming, and deadly. Ghislaine Maxwell wasn't just his girlfriend, confidant, or business manager. She was his co-conspirator, the gatekeeper, the recruiter. Today, we go beyond the headlines and delve into 15 disturbing and mysterious truths about Ghislaine Maxwell. Her broken childhood, rise through elite society, and descent into darkness. This isn't just a story of Ghislaine's hellish partnership in trafficking with Epstein. It's a story of Ghislaine's cursed birth to 20 years sentence, generational power, unchecked abuse, and how evil can wear an expensive dress and a perfect smile. Stay with us by liking this video and subscribing to our channel, because what you're about to hear may change the way you view high society forever. Number 15. Born on Christmas, forgotten by New Year. Ghislaine Maxwell was born on December 25, 1961. A day meant for joy, light, and family. But just 72 hours later, tragedy struck. Her teenage brother Michael was critically injured in a horrific car accident that left him in a coma for 7 years until his death. In the aftermath, infant Ghislaine was emotionally abandoned by her grieving parents. Her mother would later confess that the baby was hardly given a glance. At the tender age of 3, Ghislaine stood before her mother and uttered a haunting plea. "Mommy? I exist." A child already forced to fight for attention in a house filled with silence. From that moment, the seeds of her psychological trauma were planted. Number 14. The favorite daughter in a house of pain. Though all Maxwell children endured the wrath and verbal abuse of their domineering father, Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine emerged as his favorite. Robert Maxwell, publishing tycoon, bully, and self-made megalomaniac, showered her with gifts and privilege. She became the only child her mother would later describe as a spoiled. Even Robert Maxwell named his private yacht the Lady Ghislaine, not after his wife or other daughters. But favoritism didn't equal safety. She too was beaten and emotionally manipulated. Dinner was no family affair. It was an intellectual tribunal where failure meant humiliation. "He would beat us with a belt," her brother Ian recalled, "girls as well as boys." Unlike her siblings, Ghislaine chose compliance over rebellion. She called her father inspiring, even as he tormented them. Was she broken or being trained? Number 13. A palace bought with persuasion, not money. Ghislaine was raised in Headington Hill Hall, a mansion in Oxford that her father convinced the city council to rent to him for almost nothing. The deal was simple. He would renovate it. The result? A sprawling Italianate estate that Robert Maxwell proudly declared the best council house in the country. Lavish parties brought in British politicians, media titans, and global celebrities. But behind the glamour, the mansion was cold and loveless. For Ghislaine, power and isolation were interwoven from the very beginning, which made her a monster day by day. Number 12. Oxford's Ice Queen with eyes on power. At Marlborough College and Oxford University, Ghislaine was never far from privilege. But classmates remember her not for her intellect, but for her strategic charm. She always looked over your shoulder, one peer said, scanning the room for someone more powerful. She wasn't just mingling, she was calculating. Ex-UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's sister once described Ghislaine as a glamazon with naughty eyes, perched provocatively on a table, her boot resting on Boris's thigh. Even in youth, she played the role of seductress, provocateur, and future manipulator. Number 11. The fall of Robert Maxwell and her first great escape. In 1991, everything unraveled. Robert Maxwell fell, literally, off the deck of his yacht, Lady Ghislaine, and was found floating dead off the Canary Islands. A tragic accident? Suicide? Or something more sinister? Ghislaine flew to Las Palmas in grief, holding a photo of her father like a sacred relic. But soon, the truth emerged. Robert Maxwell had stolen over $580 million from his company's pension fund, devastating 32,000 employees. While her brothers faced fraud charges and were eventually acquitted, Ghislaine fled the UK. Her defense of her father was unwavering. "He wasn't a crook," she told Vanity Fair. "A thief to me is someone who steals money. He didn't do that. What do you call it? Blind loyalty for a father? Or a willful delusion to get rid of this chaos?" Let us know in the comments section below. Number 10. The Queen of Manhattan. With no obvious fortune. With her father disgraced, Ghislaine reinvented herself in New York. She became a fixture in elite circles, photographed with Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, and even Pope John Paul II. This is why President Donald Trump's name is coming up repeatedly in this mysterious case. However, her British accent and mystery made her an exotic figure in Manhattan's elite circles. But something didn't add up. How could she afford a 5-story Manhattan townhouse and jet-set lifestyle on a modest $106,000 a year trust? The answer would come years later. Her benefactor was none other than Jeffrey Epstein. Number 9. The Partnership from Hell. Enter Jeffrey Epstein. Ghislaine's alliance with Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just romantic, it was strategic. Epstein, a wealthy, manipulative, and mysterious man, was her new power source. She introduced him to princes and presidents. He gave her the opulence her father once provided. The prosecution in her 2021 trial revealed that Maxwell wasn't wealthy when she met Epstein. She needed him, and in return, he used her to build a dark empire of abuse. Their dynamic? Not just intimate. It was a partnership in crime. Number 8. Mistress of the Mansion, or the Recruiter-in-Chief. Former Epstein employees described Ghislaine as more than a house manager. She ran the show. She gave out a 58-page instruction manual, demanded staff avoid eye contact with Epstein, and arranged the movements of teenage girls. Victim Sarah Ransom stated in court, "Ghislaine controlled the girls. She knew what Jeffrey liked." CNN reports, the prosecution revealed that Ghislaine Maxwell groomed girls between 1994 and 1997, scheduling massages that turned normalizing abuse and building an industrial-scale trafficking operation. How many more lives were shattered behind closed doors, while the world saw nothing but parties, mansions, and political power? If you're watching this, don't forget to hit like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to follow the unfolding truths of the Epstein network. Number 7. The Vanishing Act. Then the in and out revelation. When Epstein was arrested in 2019 and died mysteriously in his jail cell weeks later, Maxwell disappeared. Her name trended globally, yet her location was a mystery. Then came the surreal photo of her at an In-N-Out burger in Los Angeles, calmly reading a book about CIA operatives. Was it staged? Many believe so. The photo screamed defiance or mockery. She was eventually arrested in July 2020 in a remote New Hampshire mansion, living under an alias, hidden like a fugitive of war. Number 6. Secret marriage, secret deals. As the world hunted her, Ghislaine had secretly married tech entrepreneur Scott Borgerson. The news stunned even her closest allies. Was it love or a legal shield? The marriage raised more questions than answers, especially when prosecutors revealed that Borgerson helped her hide and manage finances linked to Epstein. So ultimately, Ghislaine did nothing for love. She just made Borgerson another partner in crime, that's all. Number 5. From diamond chandeliers to concrete walls. Awaiting trial, Maxwell was confined to a 6-by-9-foot concrete cell in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center. 10 cameras monitored her around the clock. She couldn't step near her cell door. Her brother Ian described it as psychological torture. For a woman who once glided through the Ritz, it was a cinematic fall from grace. Tragic for her, but perhaps long overdue for those she helped destroy. Number 4. The trial of the century and a guilty verdict. In December 2021, a jury found Ghislaine Maxwell guilty of 5 federal counts, including sex trafficking of a minor. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison. The verdict came not just from evidence, but from survivors, brave women who told their stories in open court. Still, questions remained. How deep did the trafficking network go? Who else was involved? With newly unsealed Epstein documents in 2024, naming dozens of high-profile individuals, including princes, presidents, and corporate CEOs, the pressure is mounting. If this story disturbed you, share it. Help shine a light on every dark corner left behind by Epstein and Maxwell. This isn't just about 2 criminals. It's about a system that allowed them to thrive. Number 3. Was she a victim or the monster herself? Some argue Maxwell was a scapegoat, Epstein's human shield. But others see a deeper truth. She was no pawn. She recruited, managed, and normalized abuse. Journalist John Sweeney put it bluntly, she learned to serve one monster, her father, and then found another. The trauma of her childhood doesn't erase the horror of her choices. It may explain, but it cannot absolve. Number 2. The women she pretended to empower. Ghislaine once founded a women-only club and paraded herself as a champion of empowerment. But those who knew her say she cared little for women, except as ladders to male power. Former friend Anna Pasternak said, she was breezily charming, but never truly connected to women. They were tools. Her feminism was hollow, a costume, a smokescreen for exploitation. Number 1. Unknowable, even now. Even after her trial, even behind bars, Ghislaine Maxwell remains an enigma. Her name is still mispronounced. Her wealth, her marriages, her motivations, still murky. She lived her life in the headlines, yet almost nothing about her was ever truly real. From yacht heiress to prison inmate, Ghislaine Maxwell's story is a twisted saga of privilege, pain, power, and predation. Her trial may have ended, but the public fascination endures. Was she a victim turned villain? Or was she always the architect of her own downfall? Either way, she remains one of the most mysterious figures in modern criminal history. Her crimes horrific, her motivations still largely unknowable. Ghislaine Maxwell was born into wealth, wrapped in privilege, and surrounded by the world's most powerful people. But behind the pearls, private jets, and polished British accent, there was a predator. She was the perfect disguise, sophisticated enough to earn trust, cold enough to break it. While the world saw her as a socialite, she was quietly orchestrating one of the darkest abuse networks in modern history. Her crimes weren't just about what she did, they were about what she enabled. And yet, even now, so much remains hidden. Because this isn't just the story of one woman's fall from grace, It's about a system that allowed her to rise in the first place. Maxwell is behind bars. Epstein is dead. But the web they wove? It's still out there. So the question now is no longer what she did. We know that. The real question is, who else knew? And who will finally be held accountable? Don't let this be another buried scandal. Share this story. Keep asking questions, because the truth doesn't die in a prison cell. It's waiting for justice.